DogWorks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by First Paw Coffee Company, specializing in private label premium blend coffee. If you're serious about coffee, you should check it out. First Paw Coffee's passion is high-quality, small-batch roasted coffee. They take the extra time to taste and get everything perfect before they release new blends. They aim to bring you a cup of happiness each time you pour yourself some coffee. Find out more at ak.dog/free and enter for a chance to win some First Paw Coffee prizes, a book from our collection, and tote bag. One winner will be selected at random each month. That's ak.dog/free.
All about the sport of sheepdog trials. As our relationships with dogs developed and we began to trust them more and manipulate their breeds to better suit our needs, dogs began to take on very important roles in assisting their human counterparts in daily duties, thus affording us the opportunities to switch from nomadic lifestyles to more stationary agricultural lifestyles. On this episode of DogWorks Radio, we will introduce you to the world of sheepdog trials. On our last episode, we introduced you to herding dogs. This is an extension of that topic in this Sport Dog series. So, if you are all about herding dogs or know someone who is, share this podcast, DogWorks Radio, with them. Let's get started.
From First Paw Media, sponsored by Alaska Dog Works Professional Canine Training Center in Anchorage, Alaska. This is DogWorks Radio, committed to families and their dogs to build lifelong and fulfilling relationships. Visit our website at dogworksradio.com. Now here are your hosts, Robert and Michele Forto.
Hello and welcome to DogWorks Radio. I am Michele Forto and I am the lead trainer of Alaska Dog Works. Do you own a herding breed? Have you taken that dog out to herding trials? Did you know a herding dog is also called a stock dog, shepherd dog, or simply just a working dog? This is a type of dog that has been trained or belongs to breeds that have been bred and developed for herding. All herding behavior is predatory behavior. By selective breeding, humans have been able to minimize the dog's natural drive to treat cattle and sheep as prey while maintaining the dog's hunting skills, thus creating an effective herding dog. If you haven't listened to the episode all about the sport of herding, go back and give it a listen at dogworksradio.com. A sheepdog trial is a competitive dog sport which herding dogs move sheep around a field through fences and gates and even into and out of enclosures while being directed by their handlers. Sheepdog trials take place all over the world in places with hill farming areas where sheep range widely unfenced. Places like Great Britain, Ireland, South Africa, Chile, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and even in the United States. Most of the venues only allow herding breeds to compete, but others are allowing any dog that has been trained to work stock. There is an exorbitant amount of training that takes place when training a dog to work stock. The competition is the fun part. A lot of these dogs actually do the work. Some are trained for competition only. Keep this in mind if you are considering a herding breed or even a herding breed mix. These dogs live to work and love it. They expect it. They thrive on the mental challenges. Training should begin early and will most likely have begun with a carefully planned out puppy program set in place by the breeder. If you don't know what a puppy program is, you can learn more from our 4-part series, The 4 Critical Periods of a Puppy's Life, at dogworksradio.com. Let's talk about the history of sheepdog trials. The first dog trials were held in New Zealand in 1867. A Kelpie from Australia named Brutus won a sheepdog trial, and his winnings were reported in the local paper in 1871, which shows a long history of trailing from Australia. This sport has a long history as well in the United Kingdom, drawing hundreds of spectators to the first recorded trial in 1873, where 10 dogs competed. The name of the first winner was Tweed. He was a compact black and tan Scottish breed dog with a foxy face. The first Scottish sheepdog trial was held at the Carnworth Agricultural Society show in Lanarkshire around 1874. It is reported that the winner was James Gardner of Pentland, with a black and white bitch named Sly, who worked with I. The prize was on £1, which was considerable money in those days. Trials quickly spread in England and Scotland from the beginning. Shepherds realized that show collies, also becoming popular at the time, quickly lost the king working instincts honed in working collies. In 1876, a trial was organized in Alexandra Park by the sheepmen as a challenge to show fanciers to demonstrate that show collies could still work. There were 2 judges for work and appearance. The result was a disaster for the show fanciers. Show collies barked, yelped, and lost control of many sheep. The winner was a common red-coated working collie named Maddie, owned by John Thomas, a Welsh shepherd. The success of those early trials led to events in the United States in the 1880s. Today, that tradition continues under the aegis of organizations such as the International Sheepdog Society in Great Britain and the United States Border Collie Handlers Association in the United States. Today, the sport continues to be popular throughout the world. In the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland all host national championships, followed by an international championship featuring the best dogs and handlers from each of the 4. Their sanctioning body, the International Sheepdog Society, also hosts a world championship every 3 years, with dogs participating from throughout the world. So some event types. Events vary with different courses being predominant in different parts of the world. In the United Kingdom, Europe, North America, and in South Africa, the Republic of South Africa, Botswana, and Zambia, the British course is the most common. In Australia, there are several events, but the key element is the control of 3 to 6 sheep by 1 or 2 highly trained dogs under the control of a single handler. Both time and obedience play a part, as competitors are penalized if a sheep strays from the prescribed course. Another popular event involves having the dogs split 6 sheep into 2 groups of 3 and conducting each group in turn to small pens through a defined course of heading dogs. The group not being led is guarded by one of the 2 dogs, an eye dog, from its ability to keep the sheep still by head movement alone. This is more difficult than it sounds because the 2 groups of sheep invariably try to stay together. Yard dog trials are also gaining in popularity. In these competitions, dogs are required to move sheep through several yards, including a drafting race and sometimes into and out of a truck with minimum assistance. The trial field. The exact layout of the trial field can vary significantly. Most experienced handlers agree that there are certain elements that are important to ensure that the challenge to the dog and handler is a fair and complete test. For the USBCHA sanctioned trials, these elements include that the dog must leave the handler and fetch sheep that are some distance away, that the dog must take control of the sheep and bring them to the handler. It is against the dog's instinct to drive the sheep away from the handler, so an away drive is a good test and should be included. The dog and handler should be able to combine to move the sheep into a confined space, typically a pen, but in some trials they are asked to load them into a vehicle. Other popular test elements that are often added include that the dog must separate the group into 2 groups in a controlled way in accordance with the instructions from the judge. This may involve some sheep being marked and the dog and handler working together to separate them from the rest, or some variation of that. This is known as shedding and is almost always required to be done in a ring marked out on the ground. Singling is another test in which the dog and handler combine to separate one sheep from the group. Most trials include a cross drive, where the dog is required to move the sheep in a controlled way in a straight line from one side of the field to the other in front of the handler, but some distance away from them. In addition, there are various elements that may be added to increase the level of difficulty of a trial. One such example is the double lift, where the dog is required to fetch one group of sheep, bring them to the handler, look back, and find another group somewhere else on the trial field, some distance away. They must then leave the first group and do a second outrun to fetch the others and bring them to join the first group. In most competitions, the dog will be required to do the fetching and driving tests on their own. During these test elements, the handler must remain at a stake positioned during the layout of the trial course. During the shedding, singling, and penning, the handler usually leaves the stake and works with the dog to achieve the task. Here's some fun facts. Do you remember the film Babe? Babe is a pig that wants to herd sheep. This movie was released in 1995. My kids watched it tirelessly, of course. To me, it was a little bit like Wilbur from Charlotte's Web got a new job to further his aspirations. At the competition, Babe meets the sheep that he will be herding, but they ignore his attempts to speak to them. As Hoggett is criticized by the bemused judges and ridiculed by the public for using a pig instead of a dog, Rex runs back to the farm to ask the sheep what to do. They give him a secret password, first extracting a promise that he will treat them better from now on. He returns in time to convey the password to Babe, and the sheep now follow his instructions flawlessly. Amid the crowd's acclamation, he is unanimously given a perfect score. While he sits down next to the farmer, Hoggett praises him with the standard command to sheepdogs that their job is done. "That'll do, pig. That'll do." And that is my favorite line from that movie. So, if you haven't seen Babe, give it a watch. You'll be amazed at the accuracy of the trial work displayed, and it's quite the fun movie. We're going to take a quick break and learn all about First Paw Coffee. When we get back, we will discuss sheepdogs and herding dogs as pets.
So earlier you learned about First Paw Coffee Company, and now I'm going to tell you about its Tail Wagger Blend. First Paw Coffee Company's Tail Wagger Blend is their first offering, and its name and label were crowdsourced from their Facebook fans. How cool is that? The Tail Wagger Blend is a private label premium blend that was developed just for them. It is a medium roast from Colombian beans with tastes of Brazil nuts, grapefruit, and oak. Be sure to go to ak.dog/free and enter to win a bunch of cool prizes. That's ak.dog/free.
We have been discussing the dog sport Sheepdog Trials. Now, let's get real and discuss the ins and outs of having a sheepdog as a pet. The well-bred and well-socialized Old English Sheepdog is a trustworthy children's companion. Some say he will supervise and herd young children, keeping them in a particular area. Others say the OES acts as a means of support to the toddler learning to walk. Even the older sheepdog can learn by this method of training. Old English sheepdogs are very intelligent and learn quickly. They can be excellent obedience dogs for competition, but be wary that once they know and exercise, they are always looking for a way to make it more interesting. Up next, I'm going to dive deeper into the Border Collie, a dog you may not think of when I'm discussing Sheepdog Trials.
We're living in uncertain times. If there is one thing we can be thankful for, that is the recent pet adoption boom. Shelters are being cleared out, and that means you may not know much about your new best friend. Alaska Dogworks virtual and on-site classes are the best way for you to build a lasting bond and learn about your pup, new or old. From setting up a proper routine to learning the commands and much more, Alaska Dogworks provides you with the resources to develop your dog into one of the best. Right now, Alaska Dogworks has an exclusive offer just for our listeners. Go to alaskadogworks.com now and use promo code DOGWORKS and save 20% off your training program at the time of your booking. Visit alaskadogworks.com and use promo code DOGWORKS to save 20% today. That's alaskadogworks.com and use promo code DOGWORKS at the time of booking.
Let's learn all about the Border Collie. Did you know? During the glory days of the Roman Empire, successive emperors drew up plans to invade and conquer Britain. But, for various reasons, uprisings in other parts of the empire or shifting political situations, the plans were shelved. Finally, in the year 43, the Emperor Claudius fulfilled this long-held dream of conquest. The Roman occupation of Britain had a great influence on virtually every aspect of British life. This included dog breeding. The occupying legions brought along their own food source, livestock, and where livestock goes, herding dogs are sure to follow. The large, heavy-boned herding dogs imported by the Romans remained a fixture on the British landscape for more than 3 centuries. During the long, slow dissolution of the Roman Empire, fierce Viking raiders took their turn invading Britain. They, too, brought along their dogs. These were smaller, quicker, Spitz-type herders, progenitors of such contemporary breeds as the Icelandic sheepdog. Crosses between the old Roman dogs and the Viking Spitz produced compact and agile herders, well equipped to work stock in the hilly, rocky highlands of Scotland and Wales. Thus began the history of the Border Collie. Borders have been called the world's greatest herders, and anyone who's seen them work with their sweeping outruns, their stealthy crouching and creeping, and their explosive bursts of focused energy would have to agree. When shepherds dream of the perfect dog, you can bet it's a border. As immortalized in the movie Babe, Borders have dominated competitive sheepdog trials in the British Isles for more than 100 years. Borders also rule the championship levels of the fast-paced sport of agility, and they routinely top lists of world's smartest dog breeds. The Border Collie joined the AKC herding group in 1995. The Border Collie is a well-balanced, medium-sized dog of athletic appearance, displaying style and agility in equal measure with soundness and strength. Its hard, muscular body conveys the impression of effortless movement and endless endurance. The Border Collie is extremely intelligent, with its keen, alert expressions being a very important characteristic of the breed. Any aspect of structure or temperament that would impede the dog's ability to function as a herding dog should be severely faulted. The Border Collie is and should remain a natural and unspoiled, true working sheepdog. Early socialization is especially vital with Border Collie, entailing positive exposure to a wide variety of people and situations from early puppyhood through about 7 months. Obedience training that starts early and continues throughout the BC's life will keep him happy and provide needed mental stimulation. Border Collies are highly intelligent and highly trainable and are superstars at canine activities such as herding, obedience, and agility. Due to their tendency to herd animals and people, they do their best with older, well-behaved children. They love their families, but may be somewhat reserved with strangers. This high-drive, athletic breed is extremely energetic and requires daily exercise beyond just a walk around the block or a quick romp in the yard. They thrive when they have a job to do and space to run. A Border Collie who doesn't work must be provided with vigorous exercise every day. Clearly, this is a breed for an active owner and not for someone who prefers to stay indoors or who travels away from home frequently. BCs often participate and excel in herding events, not to mention obedience, agility, rally, and tracking competitions, and sports such as flying disc and flyball. The Border Collie is generally a very hardy and healthy breed, and a responsible breeder will screen breeding stock for health conditions such as hip dysplasia, progressive renal atrophy, deafness, epilepsy, Collie eye anomaly, neuronal ceroid lipofuscinosis, and trapped neutrophil syndrome. A BC's ears should be checked regularly for signs of infection, and the teeth should be brushed regularly. Recommended health tests from the National Breed Club include hip evaluation and ophthalmologist evaluation. So if you're thinking about getting a Border Collie or any other herding breed for that matter, or you currently have one that you think might want to take one or more training classes and challenges, go check out our website, alaskadogworks.com. If you have a friend or family member with a herding dog that you might think enjoy the podcast, let them know all about DogWorks Radio. See you next time.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by First Paw Coffee Company. Learn more at firstpaw.coffee.
From First Paw Media, this is DogWorks Radio. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you'll see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Robert and Michele Forto. Our producer is Robert Forto and created for First Paw Media. Did you know that Alaska DogWorks trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michele Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska DogWorks on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.